A typical gas-consuming family, the Subchenkos live in a small apartment in a poor, worn-down part of the Ukrainian capital, Kiev. Pavlo, Mariana and their 3 children, Maria, Ivan and little Alessa. They are completely dependent on natural gas. Gas for the stove, the central heating and the hot water. There are no meters for the gas. Nobody knows how much gas each family is using. You pay according to how many people are registered on the address. And you don't pay very much. October 1st, the city authorities turn on the central heating. May 1st, they turn it off. Heaters have no thermostats. If it gets too hot in the winter, the only solution is to open the windows. Wasting energy is an old Soviet tradition.
For central heating, 45 and 7 hryvnias, and the heating of water 60 hryvnias, and the gas 9 and 45 kopies.
For 1 month?
Yeah, 4 months.
The total gas bill, heating hot water and the stove, is less than 120 Ukrainian hryvnia per month, a little less than $25. Salaries in Ukraine are low, but this gas price is one of the lowest in Europe. And not just private consumers benefit from the cheap gas. Also, the large chemical plants and metal factories in Ukraine enjoy cheap gas for their production.
First of all, this is Soviet tradition, but second, it is extremely populistic. In English, this is extremely populistic policy of Ukrainian government to give away gas to population, to people. This price, I think, it's the lowest price in Eastern Europe for gas that we have.
The result is runaway consumption. Ukraine is burning off more natural gas than Poland, Hungary, Slovakia and the Czech Republic together. And the gas consumption is increasing year after year. Ukrainians are becoming more and more dependent on the millions of cubic meters of natural gas flowing into the country every day through these pipelines, all the way from Russia. This man has a plan for Russia's vast oil and gas reserves. Vladimir Putin had the plan even before he became president of the Russian Federation. He then wrote a dissertation on how Russia could become a world superpower once again by using its energy resources. The government should take control of the oil and gas industry, he wrote, and use it in the interest of the state. This plan is now being put into effect. The Russian government controls the huge gas company Gazprom, and neighboring countries who've tried to break away from Russian influence have experienced a dramatic increase in the price of Russian gas. For instance, Georgia, Moldova and Ukraine, all completely dependent on gas from Russia. Critics claim that Russia is using natural gas as a political weapon. To visit Russia's enormous gas reserves, one has to travel across some of the toughest and most remote parts of the world. Normally this area is out of bounds for journalists. The Russian authorities consider the gas sources areas of strategic importance that require a special permission to enter. Here, in the bitter cold of the endless Siberian tundra, Russia pumps up its natural gas. The region is called the Yamalo-Nenets Autonomous District. It's twice as big as Germany, but sparsely populated. 500,000 people live here, most of them working with oil and gas.
Ну, хотя вот 4 года назад здесь было ровное место пустое. Теперь вы видите, вот что здесь есть. 1 000 000 тонн мы добываем в год.
Almost 90% of Russia's present production of natural gas comes from this area, the Nadim field. The 200 men who work here live in barracks near the pumping station. They work for a month, then they're off for a month. The temperature's minus 33, and not only people, but also trucks and machinery have to keep warm in order to work in these conditions. In January, the temperature went down to minus 57, and minus 63 was recorded a few years back.
Ну, основная проблема, когда пурга, не мороз, а вьюга, пурга переметается. И вот эта проблема, что в 10 метрах не видно вообще ничего бывает. Очень сильный ветер штормовой. Ну, морозы тоже проблема.
Already in the Soviet times, oil and gas was extracted in the region with great difficulty. In reality, Nadim is completely cut off for most of the year. Spring, summer and fall, when the ice and snow melts and turns everything into mud, the only way to travel is by plane or helicopter. In winter, it all freezes solid again. From the sources in Nadim, the pipelines stretch towards Europe.
Отсюда до границы около 3000 километров проходит. Дальше уже от границы там идет на экспорт, я там уже не знаю сколько километров, но я знаю, что до Ла-Манша там идет, до Франции проходит.
From Nadim, billions of cubic meters of gas is pumped to Europe through the world's largest net of pipelines.
В дальнейшем мы будем выходить на новые площади, в новые регионы, но сейчас и еще на достаточно большую перспективу именно этот регион будет являться основным местом добычи газа «Газпромом».
Gazprom is the world's largest producer of natural gas. The company owns 1/5 of the world's known gas reserves. All figures concerning Gazprom are astronomical. In one single day in January, Gazprom's shares went up by $23 billion, more than the amount that caused the whole Russian economy to collapse in 1998. No other Russian company can match that. President Putin has a firm grip on Gazprom. The federal government is the majority shareholder, and the Kremlin has its people placed on the board of directors. The chairman of the board is at the same time Deputy Prime Minister and President Putin's special advisor.
Is Gazprom part of Kremlin, or is it a private company?
We, independent journalists here, analysts here, we sometimes say that Gazprom is a new foreign ministry of Russia. Because really this is the Gazprom which enters the stage when we have to just make any foreign policy decisions.
It can be very difficult to distinguish between the political interest of the Kremlin and the economic interest of Gazprom. In the beginning of 2006, Gazprom shut down delivery of natural gas to Ukraine for 2 days, officially over a price dispute. The gas war showed the world what a powerful political instrument natural gas can be.
В кінці минулого року нам Росія запропонувала ціну, яка, зокрема, перебільшує ту ціну, по якій вона експортує газ в Німеччину, більше як в 5 разів. Це, звичайно, було шоком. Це потребувалося певного переговорного процесу, який розпочався, і взагалі Україна стояла на грані відключення від енергозабезпечення в зимовий період.
The message was that the price of gas would go up from $50 to $230 per 1,000 cubic meters, a price that, according to some Western experts, would completely upset the Ukrainian economy. But what really shook the Ukrainians was that the message didn't come from the gas supplier Gazprom, but from the president of the Russian Federation, Vladimir Putin.
Когда президент Путин называет цену, а не президент РАО «Газпром», это ненормально. Первую цену мы узнали по телевизору от президента Путина.
Mr. Martynenko is deputy chairman of the Energy Committee of the Ukrainian Parliament. He has no doubt that the price was a political decision.
Ви знаєте, воно починалося з політичної підоснови. Коли президент починає коментувати ситуацію з ціноутворенням на газ, зокрема російський, це не може бути бізнес. Про бізнес говорять бізнесмени, а не говорять політики.
Ever since the Orange Revolution in Ukraine, which brought down the pro-Russian government and brought to power Viktor Yushchenko, the opposition leader, relations between Russia and the former Soviet Republic of Ukraine have been strained.
Putin's decision to make the price 230 was his political position, was his like his words to Yushchenko that I do not like 230 I do not like.
Gazprom's position is that Ukraine and other former Soviet republics have been getting the gas at unreasonably low prices and that they will have to pay the market price.
Решения, которые были приняты в конце прошлого года об увеличении цен на газ для этих республик, они были обусловлены тем, что дальше уже просто нельзя было сохранять столь низкий уровень цен, который уже был экономически неоправдан.
But what is the market price for natural gas? That's not so easy to decide. Contrary to oil, which has a fixed price on the world market, gas has no market price.
There is no market price for gas. It's a paradox. So gas is commodity, it should have a market price, but here in this country there is no market price for gas. That's why all talks about about market price for gas is just a window dressing. Just you just take a map and look on the neighboring republics and look how much do they pay for gas, and you'll discover that with every country there is a different market price for gas. We can make a conclusion that so-called market price for gas is a combination of quite a number of factors, not only economic, but also political.
Former Soviet republics like Georgia and Ukraine have recently broken the strong bonds of the past with Russia and have both experienced sudden stops in the supply of natural gas from Russia, while arguing over demands for a higher price.
Finally, it takes into consideration the degree of political loyalty to President Putin. This is also the factor which is carefully omitted by Kremlin, but definitely this factor, among other factors, is also included into the market price for gas.
The president of Belarus, Lukashenko, is loyal to Putin and Russia. He's been able to keep the very low gas price. But at a price, Belarus has given up the country's entire pipeline grid to Gazprom in return for the ridiculously low gas price. Gazprom actually offered Ukraine the same deal, cheap gas for pipelines, but they turned it down. For, according to many Ukrainians, the huge net of pipelines is the country's most important asset in the power game with Russia. 80–90% of Russia's natural gas exports pass through these Ukrainian pipes. Compressor stations make sure that the pressure and temperature is kept at the right level. Through these Ukrainian pipelines, Gazprom is the main supplier of natural gas to Europe, especially Eastern Europe. Gazprom supplies 40% of Germany's gas, 65% of the gas in Poland and Bulgaria, 70% of the gas in Hungary, 80% of the gas in Ukraine and the Czech Republic, and almost all of the gas that is used in Austria, Slovakia, Belarus and the Baltic states. In other words, Ukraine is not the only country in Europe which is dependent on Russian gas. But as a transit country, Ukraine has the advantage that Gazprom cannot close down the gas supply completely without at the same time cutting off the gas they're obliged to supply to customers further on down the line. So when Gazprom in January reduced the amount of gas supplied to the Ukrainian pipeline grid, the Ukrainians didn't feel any difference. They just drew from the gas that was supposed to go on to countries like Poland, Austria and Hungary.
The temperature was little, the temperature of radiators.
Yeah.
Of central heating.
So temperature went down, but apart from temperature, you didn't feel any change. You had gas for the stove and...
No, it was. The gas was.
Природній газ в газопроводах був. Так, пройшло дійсно незначне падіння тиску в газопроводах, що призвело до зупинок ряду компресорних станцій іменно в цьому напрямку. Але споживачі України цього не замітили.
The gas war ended with a victory for Gazprom. A weak and politically inexperienced Ukrainian government gave in and accepted the higher price. Not the $230 per 1,000 cubic meters that President Putin originally suggested, but still double the price they had paid before.
Ви знаєте, стосунки газові між Росією і Україною повинні дещо заставити європейські країни більше думати про це питання, зокрема про свої газові стосунки з Росією. Тому що де це виключення? Абсолютно зрозуміло, я думаю, по-перше, стало західним країнам про те, що газ використовується як політичний товар.
Gazprom completely rejects the notion of gas as a political weapon.
Ну, вы знаете, это очень чей-то удачный такой ход был, такой пропагандистско-журналистский, когда было придумано вот такое словосочетание о том, что там, газ – это некое политическое оружие. Я думаю, что со временем этот такой штамп, который, к сожалению, привился вот в связи с украинскими проблемами, он должен будет просто забыться, потому что реально в вопросах поставок газа, в вопросах обеспечения надежности поставок, вот для нас, как компании, которая работает на длительную перспективу, вот, обеспечение стабильных условий работы с нашими партнерами – это самое главное.
For Ukraine, the gas war was a tough lesson.
Що це така послуга велика Україні, це ненормально. Як і ненормально, до речі, це одне з питань для України, те, що постачання, зокрема, газу йде тільки з однієї країни. У нас немає диверсифікованих джерел постачання газу в Україну. Енергоспоживання, на превеликий жаль, дуже велике.
The world's need for energy is expected to go up by 50% in the next 20 years. That's going to have a great impact on geopolitical relations, and American intelligence sources consider that energy and the supply of energy will become a dominant factor in foreign policy.
I think that Europe can learn several things. First of all, that Europe will be the next after Ukraine. And second is that Europe should act as a one whole consumer of Russian gas in order to oppose Russia. Because one country cannot oppose the power of Gazprom. Because Gazprom is getting very brutal, for example, with Moldova and with Georgia. And I think that the European countries will be next for Gazprom.
Тому що де виключення того, що завтра, наприклад, в Німеччині, Італії чи Франції, які є найбільшими споживачами газу в Європі, не назвуть ціну там $800, а потім добавлять, це ціна ринкова. Або покупаєте, або не покупаєте, а на вулиці буде, ну, десь в зоні Альп, теж саме за 30 морозу, що абсолютно реально може бути картина.
Gazprom is aware of its strong position in the market.
Серьезной альтернативы России все равно нет на обозримую перспективу, и такими же ресурсами газа, как мы, не обладает в настоящее время более никто.
Gazprom is building a new pipeline, the North European gas pipeline, to be completed by 2010. It will go through the Baltic Sea directly from Russia to Germany without having to transit Ukraine or other tiresome intermediates. To lead this great project, Gazprom has hired no other than the former German Chancellor, Gerhard Schröder. Back home in Germany, Schröder is facing serious criticism over his job with Gazprom, among other things because as a Chancellor he was involved in securing economic guarantees for the project. Critics claim that the new pipeline will make Germany even more dependent on Russian gas than before.
There is a danger if Europe really accepts the concept of North European pipeline as a historic project which would change the face of the Europe. This is what official propaganda in Moscow and in Berlin also was saying. You see? Then, of course, it will be dependence, with all coming out of that consequences. But still there is time.
Gazprom is warning Europe that they have other interested customers. Russia just signed a deal with energy-hungry China to build 2 gas pipelines from the gas fields in Siberia.
Сейчас рынок энергоресурсов – это основа развития экономики всех развитых и развивающихся стран. Поэтому мы считаем, что, безусловно, те ресурсы, которые есть у «Газпрома», тот опыт работы на рынке, который есть, и, что самое главное, верная стратегия позволит нам занять достойное место в ряду крупнейших мировых энергетических компаний и мировых держав.
This summer, the G8 will meet in St. Petersburg, a summit that the Kremlin hopes will bring President Putin one step closer to making Russia a superpower once again, this time using gas and oil.
If Europe just adopts Putin's scenario, which would be voiced at G8, that be quiet, we have plenty of gas and oil, we are close to you, we will sell it to you, trust us, sign contracts for 10, 15 years, don't look for any alternative sources, and if Europe deprives itself of alternative sources, then maybe it will also become a younger sister of President Putin. So it depends on you.